tomorrow. The NBA will resume its postseason likely by the weekend. And while the start of the NFL season is still weeks away, 9 teams canceled their practices today to discuss issues of race and police violence. Lisa.
All right. Heather, thanks for this tonight from Toronto. Donald Trump, who has yet to directly address the police shooting of Jacob Blake, weighed in on the NBA boycott at a FEMA hurricane briefing today.
I don't know much about the NBA protest. I know their ratings have been very bad because I think people are a little tired of the NBA, frankly. They become like a political organization, and that's not a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing for sports or for the country.
Trump also spoke about shutting down the protests in Wisconsin, though. Tonight, there is one not far from the White House. Hundreds gathered along Black Lives Matter Plaza calling for change and demanding action against the officer who shot Jacob Blake. A view shared by the Democratic vice presidential nominee. Kamala Harris told NBC News, based on what I've seen, it seems the officer should be charged. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malvin on the investigations and the demonstrations.
The troubled streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin were more peaceful overnight after days of unrest, violence, and the National Guard called in from 3 states following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Shot 7 times in the back, he told officers he had a knife. Investigators later found it on the floor of his car. Protests over his shooting escalated when 2 people were shot dead in Kenosha, and a teenage vigilante was seen running with a semi-automatic rifle. 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse is being charged with 2 counts of homicide. Earlier, he told a videographer,
"Our job is to protect this business. I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle."
Rittenhouse was with a group of uninvited armed militia members. He's later seen with his hands up, walking right by police.
For him to even be able to shoot somebody and still walk away from the scene, I mean, they talked about finding a knife inside of the car, not even on Jacob Blake's person. We got a much bigger problem on our hands.
On social media, Rittenhouse posed with guns, is pro-police, and a supporter of the president, even attending one of his rallies and posting Trump 2020 online. Praising the teenager, Fox News.
How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles decided they had to maintain order when no one else would?
Punching back Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who accused Donald Trump of using civil unrest and chaos to divide America and get reelected.
They're looking for more violence and more disruption because it helps them politically. He views this as a political benefit.
And late tonight, Jacob Blake's family says they were heartbroken to see their son handcuffed in hospital where he's recovering from surgery. Lisa?
Joy Malvin in Washington tonight. In the U.S. Deep South, racism is normalized with Confederate monuments. This statue, a fixture in Lake Charles, Louisiana since 1915, was knocked down today. 2 weeks after locals voted to keep it, Hurricane Laura settled the score. The downgraded storm is tracking north and expected to graze Newfoundland on Monday, far weaker than the Cat 4 thrashing along the U.S. Gulf Coast overnight. CTV's Tom Walters surveys the damage.
Battered and blacked out, Lake Charles, Louisiana is a tangle of broken buildings and downed power lines.
Looks like pretty much everyone around this area kind of got hit hard.
This city of 80,000 took the full force of Hurricane Laura.
I'm just glad that we are all alive, that's it.
Not every family can say that. Lost lives include those of a 14-year-old girl and of a 68-year-old man, both killed by falling trees. Laura slammed into a rural part of the Louisiana coast near the Texas border early this morning.
You can see how visibility is going to 0 now.
The storm surge was about half forecasters predicted, but fierce winds caused widespread damage.
The whole Valero gas station roof, you see the top of it ripped off.
And nearly 900,000 customers are without power tonight. Officials believe mass evacuations saved lives, but not everyone went. Bethany Agosto's family of 4 wrote it out in a closet.
It was like a jigsaw puzzle in this closet. We were on top of each other, just holding each other, crying.
But the destruction was not what Texas Governor Greg Abbott had feared.
We did dodge a bullet.
And a hurricane is a lot like a bullet. The harm it does depends on what it hits. A vivid reminder of that. Saturday marks the 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. That left most of New Orleans underwater and killed as many as 2,000 people. And while Katrina was a more severe low-pressure system, it was only Category 3 at landfall. Today, Laura was a strong Category 4.
This was the most powerful storm to ever make landfall in Louisiana.
But as bad as it was for those hardest hit, there is some relief tonight that a storm can be the most powerful ever and not be the worst. Tom Walters, CTV News, Los Angeles.
Now, because of the hurricane, Donald Trump toyed with postponing his acceptance speech tonight at the Republican convention. For a president, though, who could never resist a captive audience, there was no break with convention. He got the last word. Here's Richard Madden.
The final night of the Trump convention show before a live audience. Few wore masks, no physical distancing, and painting a stark choice in November.
This election will decide whether we save the American dream or whether we allow a socialist agenda to demolish our cherished destiny.
Challenges this election are unprecedented. A nationwide pandemic, an economy in free fall, and racial unrest. Last night, the vice president didn't mention Jacob Blake, but used the violence to promote his agenda.
We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
Earlier, the First Lady comforted those who lost loved ones from coronavirus.
I know many people are anxious and some feel helpless. I want you to know you're not alone.
All week, special guest stars delivered high praise to the leader.
Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization.
Warnings about Democrats from the McCloskeys, the Missouri couple who pointed their guns at protesters in their gated community.
They're not satisfied with spreading the chaos and violence into our communities. They want to abolish the suburbs altogether.
The socialist Democrats have a different agenda.
And apocalyptic imagery from the Trump family, including his son's girlfriend.
They want to enslave you to the weak, dependent, liberal, victim ideology to the point that you will not recognize this country or yourself.
Trump breaking tradition and possibly the law by using the White House as a campaign backdrop.
And this election will decide whether we will defend the American way of life or whether we will allow a radical movement to completely dismantle and destroy it.
And the White House confirming tonight, most of the 1,000-plus guests at Trump's speech were tested for the virus. Trump's re-election campaign now officially underway, an incumbent branding himself as an outsider and victim of the establishment. Lisa.
All right, Richard Madden on the final night of the convention. Thank you, Richard. Along with bashing Joe Biden, Republicans have also been trashing China, the main competition in developing the first coronavirus vaccine. A Halifax lab was supposed to start clinical trials on a potential COVID cure made in China. Beijing, though, is now holding up shipments of the CanSino vaccine to Canada, ending a partnership that's already cost Canadian taxpayers $40 million. Billions are being spent getting kids back to school, but it's the first round that's become a sort of test pattern for the rest of this country. Thousands returned to class in Quebec. On a day, the province was among 3 that reported a triple-digit rise in cases. Here's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin.
New greetings, new habits. But on day 1 of the first large-scale return to school in this country, a reminder coping with COVID won't be easy. The father of a student at a college on Montreal's South Shore tested positive. The entire class was sent home. The school said it took hours for guidance from public health, and the conclusion, only the child with an infected parent should have been sent home. An added concern to some. Quebec's back-to-school plan has come under criticism. Just last week, a group of doctors signed an open letter asking for tougher measures. The plan sets up classrooms as bubbles, bans school sports and activities with students from different classes. But it doesn't ask students to wear masks in class or physically distance within their bubble.
We take care of the kids, we take care of the parents, we take care of the staff and the
teachers.
On va faire de notre mieux au jour le jour. The next few days will test the system.
How's it going?
And it's clear other provinces will be watching.
Yeah, let's go through some questions.
Ontario has a stricter plan with some levels capped at 15 students per class. But some teachers fear some groups will be too big to ensure physical distancing. And their union says the Premier should stop belittling their concerns with comments like this.
And now it's time the teachers step up. Everyone else is sacrificed.
In BC, some want school reopenings pushed back to allow for quarantine after the Labor Day weekend.
I don't think there's any perfect time. Whether we push it out 2 weeks, that's just going to give some people more anxiety for longer.
Still, in spite of concerns for thousands of families, these were steps in search of a return to routine, to school books and friends.
I think the kids need to get out, they need to socialize, they need to have that connection with their teachers, with their friends.
I'm excited so much.
And schools say it will take the full cooperation of parents, teachers, and students to give the protocols a chance. Lisa.